Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine, just trying to track all of the things that are happening in sports.
All three of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you have to be like that plate spinner on Ed Sullivan's show, you know. Spinning all these fucking plates all over the place. There really isn't that much going on. But we still here. And I points out that the picture on the show today, the dog bone looks about circa 1987. That would be about the extent of it. That's pretty good. And I got a pennant over there. I have a Cleveland Browns pillow over there. I got the mini Cleveland Browns helmet, Cleveland Browns hat. I have my own little and the
funny
towel.
You mentioned it. It's funny that the Cleveland one at a toy show. They were directly across. They had the booth directly across from us, and I had to buy it. I specifically bought it because it was the perfect size to fit the rear seat of the of the Dodge Dakota, so that I had something for my ass to sit on all the way back from Tucson.
Yeah, at the time the Browns were good. There was there's actually hope like there is now. I want to start out the program, and being a wise guy, huh? That's the extent of it.
I was a kid in the 80s too. I was born in 1972. So
yeah, I was born back in 57. So I was kind of a middle-aged guy. I've always been a middle-aged guy from the time I came out of the womb. Just kind of worked that way. And Rick is, we're going to be talking about Mickey Callaway in a little bit. Not to start out the program, we're going to start about Greedy Williams talking about his injury. And I think
you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Weird.
Yeah. Finally, Greedy Williams is talking about his shoulder, and we have the exact diagnosis of this. And whenever somebody gives me an exact diagnosis, and I start researching the injury. So now I can help fans who've been asking me over and over, do you think Greedy's going to play next year, whether I think he is or not? The injury is an axillary nerve injury, and it's something that is usually caused by trauma, which we couldn't figure out why this happened in the preseason. But, and this is what's wrong with football. They're supposed to be going at it easy, right?
Yeah.
And that's not what happened.
Yeah, but as a defensive back, you're still going to be stretching. You're still going to be trying to deflect the ball, reaching around a body, trying to play through a receiver. Well, we see it in the highlights from a couple of years ago when they were actually able to, film the practices and stuff. So,
but I mean, Greedy Williams, in his own words, will tell you how it happened. We were doing this tackling drill. It's supposed to be receivers running toward the sideline. We just wrap them up like formal tackling or whatever. It got out of hand, and guys just started hitting like crazy with all of their force. I went and tried to hit a guy with all of my force, and he ducked his head into my shoulder and ran through my shoulder. Axillary nerve injury. Now, for all the talk that we hear about, how unnecessary preseason games are and how why players come into seasons and into camp and soft tissue injuries rule the day, it could well be because they're trying to do too much too soon. And again, there's no reason for this to have been an all-out drill, but it was, and nobody was stopping it. So this is the nature of the business, or as Hyman Roth would say. All right, we'll do Hyman Roth for a minute if you're not a Godfather 2 fan. It's
Hyman.
that we're in. Yeah. Yeah. This is the hurting business of football. And so that's how this accident, if you want to call it that, happened. And it set off the horrible fact that for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, he couldn't move his arm. He couldn't lift his arm. He couldn't raise his arm. He couldn't do anything. An axillary nerve issue. Now, the axillary nerve would usually, the kind of force that we're talking about here, folks, would usually be automobile accident force, okay? Which is what I never understood about when they just described it as general nerve damage. I said, everything I'm researching would suggest that it would take a major collision for that to take place, and that's exactly what happened. Literally, they ran EMG tests, which is the gold standard. What they do is they actually run voltage through and get the nerve and the surrounding muscles to respond, and nothing. They put the shock through him, nothing would happen. It was dead. And this went on and on and on and on. And it's only until very recently, because he's talking now, that he started feeling his shoulder. He lets us all know that he's at about 60, that's 60%, and that he has hopes that things are going to continue to get better because nerves can regenerate, unlike things like cartilage. This living tissue will reanimate itself, and it's hopeful that he will play again. However, the rate of healing in this, a full healing, is 85 to 100%. All right? Time being a major determinant of the whole thing. If it were a year, then he'd be all right because it would take him back into training camp again. But it's not always that easy. It can last as long as 2 years. Even when it's getting better, the last 40% may be longer than the first 60. Or it could be much faster. You just don't know. This injury is a real beast of an injury. And he did address fans who were saying that he was weak sauce and that he just wasn't putting out and that he was just collecting a payday. That couldn't be further from the truth. My feeling about him being brittle is a separate diagnosis from this, which we now know is caused by mass trauma. So he and Delpit basically are coming back from very different but very difficult injuries. Greedy was told it was at least a 6 to 12 month injury, and there you go. So do I think Greedy Williams is going to play next year? My answer to you is, if I were the Browns, I would not count on it. He may well. I wouldn't count on it. And you can't go into the season with the caliber of players back there that you currently have. So I just wouldn't be guessing on the side of luck right now, because if you're counting when this actually happened to him, which I would imagine was somewhere in the month of August, if I'm correct?
Yeah, actual training camp.
Right. So it's like August, September, October, November, December, January, February. It's been 7 months, and now he's finally getting feeling back in the thing. So I don't know. I'd like to say that it's a definite go, but the fact of the matter is that it's a continual rehab, and it's something that can be set off again in a heartbeat if it's not healed. It's got to be completely healed before he can make a go of this. So.
And he can hurt it again just with a non-contact, like like I said, reaching for a football over his head. He can, the weight of the ball and the velocity of the ball can be just enough to re-tear the shit out of it, and then he's done.
Right at that point. And then there is surgical options, but the surgical options are rare and last the last desperate act of a desperate person who is a person that young who would have to go under the knife for this condition. But normally there's no surgery attached to it. The question is, an 85 to 100% heal prognostication is great, but that doesn't take into account the people who get into traffic accidents, who don't play professional football for a living, okay? If you have a horrible car wreck and it happens one time in an isolated fashion, then you say, hey, I'm cured, I'm healed and I don't have to worry about this again. But if you're going back out in the field and you're ramming people with your shoulder again, all bets are off.
Yeah, then the whole, well, he doesn't tackle. Well, now you know why.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing won't help his confidence. That's for damn sure.
It's gonna hurt his career too.
Yeah.
I don't think he's long in this league if he does come back.
Yeah, I mean, it is but they say when it's healed, Ernest Angley healed, it's healed. So, but again, if you're like coming out of a cannon at somebody and you hit it again at an oblique angle, it could happen again.
Or you're forced to tackle somebody like Derrick Henry.
It can happen again. It's
whose left ass cheek weighs more than fucking Greedy Williams.
Now, most people would say that you're not gonna get this multiple times in a lifetime, because in playing football and doing what he did, he had to hit it just right, yada yada yada. But I don't know. I mean, if you're the Cleveland Browns, and I know that they're sensible, analytically oriented, and they're going to know that they're going to have to get additional cornerbacks into camp. And it's interesting with all the talk about linebackers surrounding the Cleveland Browns because of the fact that they are losing their best guys, and their best guys were old veterans, guys like B.J. Goodson and Malcolm Smith were free agents. And, we're stuck with the core of Takataki, Mack Wilson, the bust, Jacob Phillips, the hopeful up-and-comer, but we have no real proof of that being the case. But, there was a site that I saw that was doing statistical analysis of the Browns defense, and it goes right to the heart of the matter of how important are linebackers. And what they said was that for the vast majority of snaps, the Browns were in a 4-2-5, and that the only type of linebacker that Joe Woods would ever really want is a 3-down linebacker, which is really peculiar because Mack Wilson and Takitaki had two separate skills. If you remember originally, Takitaki was the straight line hitter, and Mack Wilson...
And more of the run-stopping defender.
Right, and Mack Wilson was supposed to be a better coverage guy, if you remember. And that didn't come to pass. Takitaki is kind of a straight line tackler and did a little better as time went on. But Mack Wilson fell off the map and fell out of favor. But these guys are not 3-down linebackers. Let's be clear about this. And if the Browns want a linebacker in the draft, they're going to analytically select somebody who plays in the scheme that Joe Woods favors. And that means more often than not a 4-2-5, which means it's going to have to be a sideline to sideline linebacker, not a guy who is a phone booth guy or a guy who can just take on the run, but is going to have to be much like what we see in Tampa Bay's linebacker. What's his name?
Levante David.
Levante David. Thank you. Yeah. That's the kind of guy that and that name comes up because he's potentially available. It's got to be somebody who's a 3-down sideline to sideline linebacker. So it really will limit, and that's why the kid's name from Tulsa keeps coming up. He is not a pass rush specialist. They don't want their linebackers rushing the quarterback, you see. They want the linebacker to have foot speed to cover the run and to get to the edges, and they also want to be able to drop into coverage and be able to stay with tight ends, which the Browns were horrible at last year. The Browns just, the reason we keep losing to the Ravens is because of Mark fucking Andrews, right? I mean, over and over, to him finding Andrews over the middle of the field because our linebackers could not cover them. And that's an easy throw for, Lamar Jackson. And there aren't many 3-down linebackers to be found. The kid from Tulsa, I saw some film on him, and hard to make, fish or fowl out of him because Tulsa is not playing a real hardy schedule. And it's hard to know whether the speed that he shows is just relative to what he's playing against, or, I'll be interested in seeing more of him statistically and analytically, if you will.
But the running backs in that conference are going to be basically the size of a third down back in the NFL. So some of the foot speed is fairly comparable.
Well, I mean, this is the name that keeps coming up, and I don't even have the kid's name in my head. He's just the kid from Tulsa for me. And I've seen a lot of film on him. And, I'd say that he can get into the backfield at the level that he's playing at. And, and he's got a motor. But again, we all know the speed of the NFL game is so vastly different. I mean, Jacob Phillips was talking about that and saying, when you're in college, you're really not so worried about what the other team's going to throw at you. You're just playing a scheme. You're doing this, you're doing that. But it's like, this is a jump up. And everybody who makes the jump up is just shocked by the speed of the NFL game. And that you don't have a chance to sit back there and think. It becomes so instinctive. And that's one of the reasons why linebackers specifically, what's being asked of them is to, it's the Sherwin-Williams approach of cover the earth. You got to have the speed and the motor to be able to go sideline to sideline. And you got to be able to be close enough to a tight end in coverage, but strong enough, unlike Joe Schobert, stop forward momentum if he catches the ball. The idea is you don't mind if Lamar Jackson throws it over the middle to Mark Andrews if you can wrestle him down 2 yards short of the first down. But so many times this year, tight ends were catching passes 2-3 yards from the marker and just trotting right over the first down marker. I mean, because there was nobody close to them. So this is part of the weakness of the Browns, and and it's what is going to, at 26 for your first pick. I mean, you can't draft the kid out of Tulsa at 26. You got to go for a cornerback or a safety, I would think. But what that leaves you with, and I don't know when we pick in the second round, but the kid from Tulsa might be gone.
You'd pick because you're 26th pick?
Yeah, 26th.
Yeah, so you're going to be, in the back, the way back
end of the
round. Yeah.
And there's just not going to be a whole hell of a lot there. So you're going to have to try to get a guy who's smart, who can figure out a scheme, but has a lot of athleticism and, and brains, and God only knows.
Basically a faster Joe Schobert.
And a bigger one. I mean, you got to be able to lay the wood to people, stop them from, tight end.
And that's the problem with drafting 230-pound guys instead of 250-pound guys.
That's just it. But I mean, then speed becomes an issue. That's why special guys get drafted higher. I mean, it's a guy like Schobert was undersized. It wasn't that he didn't have a motor and he was around the ball. He just gets steamrollered because he just wasn't physically big enough. I mean, running backs weighed as much or more than he did. And, he was being pushed backwards consistently yards after contact. So, I don't mind. I mean, if I'm playing the Ravens, if I consider it a win if Lamar Jackson goes back to throw and doesn't hit a play to Marquise Brown or something big down the field that he has to check down to the tight end and you nail him 2 yards.
Or the lucky shit wounded duck to Willie Snead for 40 yards.
Yeah, Yeah, you be careful about what you're doing in downfield coverage. But that's still not to say that he won't go for it on 4th and 2 and just run the ball like he does 95% of the time on 4th down and find a crease and get the yardage. But you're not facing Lamar Jackson every week, and we were giving up way too much to tight ends, way too much during the course of the year. So I wanted to share something with you. First is a story, and this story it will just tell you, it's like, what kind of opinion is this? This is out of a guest columnist for Cleveland.com. The Cleveland Indians are searching for a new name. I suggest calling the team the Satchels.
For Satchel Paige?
Yes, that is the suggestion. And I went out of my way, okay, absolutely out of my way. And I'm going to share the screen with you guys to figure this out. I have the logo. All right. I already figured out the logo. All right.
The briefcase from
briefcase.
And it is brown.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be.
Oh, they also have the chocolate one. That's actually closer to Satchel.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, and if anyone takes you to task, here you go. And
the one that would be even better would be the little briefcase from the Monopoly game.
And they have a bigger one. I mean, if you look here, or if you're going more like anatomically correct, you go with the 13-inch satchel. What kind of a stupid suggestion is this? I mean, have we lost our fucking minds?
That's the easy answer is yes.
I mean, it's not that. Look, nothing against Satchel Paige, nothing against him, but
yeah,
I just don't think that
even Satchel Paige would hate that.
Yeah, because he would look behind him and it would be gaining on him. I don't. Everybody,
can you imagine him trying to carry one of those things out there and pitch?
A team nickname is a team nickname. It's not a political statement. It's not political correctness. It's marketing. All right, you're not going to call yourself the Indians, so find a name that you can market. You have a nice, cozy, cuddly mascot for. Not that the stupid one that they have running around the park. What was his name?
Chief Wahoo? No.
The big stuffed fat mascot that was in the stadium all the time.
Oh God.
I can't remember his name. Isn't that terrible?
What, like the Philly Fanatic?
Yeah, he was like that, but
it was like the Brewers had Bernie Brewer. What the hell's his name? Slider? Oh God, it was Slider, wasn't it?
Slider, right?
Yeah, Slider, the fucking.
Yeah, I mean, what's that have to do with Native Americans? Nothing, and that's my point.
It looks like a retarded Barney the fucking.
Yeah,
Barney
he
the
like
dinosaur.
He looked like a beaker with an eating disorder.
Beaker.
A fat beaker.
But you see, the way I look at it is it's marketing. Nobody cares. I mean, the Slider has nothing to do with the Indians, and so you don't need the Indians name. You can just come up with this really cool, cuddly.
Well, like the Diamondbacks don't have an actual snake as their mascot. They have a coyote.
It'd be a lot cooler if they did.
Well, it was not kid friendly. Let's put it
like
that
a giant anaconda just fucking roaming.
Yeah, these big fucking fangs hanging down. Because if you've ever seen a Diamondback, they are not friendly looking animals.
Now, Rick May saying Valise would be too silly, and Vaseline's already taken by San Francisco in case they have.
The whole thing stinks like yesterday's diapers.
So, it's...
There's your movie line, Key.
So since this is the Black Hole in Space Friday show, I have a question.
Yeah.
Mark, do you subscribe to the Peacock Network?
Subscribe to NBC?
Yeah, the Peacock. That's what their whole new streaming platform is.
Yeah, it's like FX Plus or
it's kind of like a Netflix, but it's got all CBS shows.
NBC, you mean? Yeah, no, I haven't. What is it?
Their latest edition can be summed up in one word.
Yeah.
Mark.
Why is that?
They put the entire former Ironside. The whole season. Suppose the whole season is coming out within the next, they said, 3 to 4 weeks.
Of the original or the remake? There was a remake.
Supposedly it's the original.
Oh my God. They can't do that. Mark! No, they can't do that. I mean, that will really be racially insensitive. Mark, I got you out of prison. You're a black man and you're in prison. Now you're my servant. That's not going to fly today.
Well, I mean, hey, put the
Rox,
warnings up.
Your thoughts.
Yeah.
Broken down white man has a black servant.
See, when the cat's away, the mice will play. We are running amok. Yeah, it's like, and then people would be, what would be the amazing part about it? It would be the handy-capable people. Now, and that's a word that I just heard the other day. Handy-capable.
What?
Yeah. Have you ever heard that word?
No.
Yeah.
Not in a while.
Handicapping is what we do on horse races and all that and on the golf course. No, you can't call them handicap. They're handy-capable, which is interesting because the handyman that I kept hiring, I thought he was handy-capable, but I can't use that word for him anymore.
Right.
He's merely...
He comes over and he give you a hand job.
Then he would be
Here, let me clean your pipes for you.
Yeah, too handy, too capable. This job will take about 10 seconds, I imagine.
And oddly enough, he looked exactly like Tom Poston.
Oh. Well, that would prolong the work. Yeah, but so today's handy-capable people would not like the idea that Ironside was being pushed around by Mark. That they wouldn't like that because that's he would be able to do it himself, by golly, because Ironside would be handy-capable. I'm still waiting for a network, and probably one of the streaming networks. It's never going to make the big roster, but a detective show where the detective has Down syndrome.
You're probably never going to get that.
Why not? They got the mentally retarded fucking doctor show.
I mean, he's got to figure the crime out, and each episode is part of a 40 episode season. Okay, so
do you like rainbows, Sage?
Yeah,
I can
he
still
works
see that shit work.
the same case for 40 weeks, and the whole idea is if you ever run into a guy like Noriega ever again, you force him to binge watch that fucking program. All right, that would be the whole idea. The Peacock Network. Oh my God.
No, CBS just came out with Paramount Plus.
Yeah, the Paramount Plus. Yeah, I saw
every CBS and MTV.
Every Star Trek movie, right? Yeah.
To watch Jersey Shore 1 minute, Survivor the next, and then switch on over to like Beavis and Butthead or something.
Is anyone like me and just says there are some things that should never come back, and Snooki is one of them?
Yeah.
It's like, my God, I would like to get Snooki with a hooky
I do have I did get the Paramount Plus because I like the old show Survivor. So
yeah, I mean, but it's ridiculous. I mean, and people are paying for Mark Eve. Get in here. I'm not handy capable. I mean, I don't.
Boy, Mark, what a beautiful dashiki you have on today.
Why don't we bring back I Spy with Robert Culp and Bill Cosby? You know, it's like, how did you do it, Bill? I put him to sleep with a drug.
That show was on Nick at Night. I love that fucking show.
I Spy? Yeah.
Yeah. That was actually a very good show.
Yeah, except for the women. It didn't end so well when they realized what was happening.
Or anybody that had to ride in the trunk of Bill Cosby's Ferrari.
They probably don't remember much if they did.
And anyway, I don't call it Down syndrome because that's too negative. I call it Up syndrome. It's something to be absolutely celebratory about. It's like, hey, my job special. Got Up syndrome.
Or if you're Joe Biden, it's Robert Downey Jr. syndrome.
Up with people, you meet them wherever you. Yeah, the whole world is
coming up next week. They're going to replay all of Us Fest.
Now, there's only one thing worse than suggesting the Cleveland Satchels as the name of your baseball team, which, you know, I don't know. And that's going over for the third spring training in a row about the shortstop who will never play in Cleveland, Yu Chang, which everybody will Yu Chang tonight, all right? Everybody around the world. Everybody Yu Chang tonight.
Across the nation, around the world.
I'm just thinking of more ways I can become politically incorrect because I'm getting very, very bored with all of the stories that are coming out. And, you know, it's like, hey, let's bring up Les Miles, what he did back in 2013. And you know something? I really am tired of it. You know, so somebody says Yu Chang to me, and I say, no, I'm Mark, Yu Chang. Why are we worried about Yu Chang? There is no way that Yu Chang is going to play for the Cleveland Indians because he can't field.
Are you absolutely sure about that? They let Jason Kipnis play for this fucking team.
Well, but there's a difference.
There's a chance Chang actually does play.
No, because they have those two shortstops, Jimenez and who's the other one? Help me out, Rick.
Jimenez?
Jose Jimenez. No, I'm with you. The other guy. There's two guys that they just got in the offseason. One of them is going to go to the minor leagues. The other one is going to start at shortstop. One's a natural shortstop. The other, they're going to probably try to convert into a second baseman.
Ubaldo Jimenez? Oh, wait.
I'm not sure who the other one is, but it ain't going to be Yu Chang, the phantom of AA ball. I mean, and the thing that's really ridiculous is, you know, what do they say the definition of insanity is?
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
There you go. I mean, so here is the
voting Democrat.
I swear Cleveland.com wrote this same article last year and they just, you know, transported it over from last year. He hit 2 home runs in a 5-1 win over the Brewers in the preseason. It was the kind of power he showed last year when the Indians gathered at Progressive Field for their second take at spring training. Well, of course, it's always in spring training. In 13 games, Chang hit 4 homers. And after that, nothing. Not a goddamn thing. And that's what we have to deal with. this is what baseball talk is in Cleveland. So is Chang ever going to really become the power hitter? You know, and they're asking Terry Francona this. And Terry's like, hey, I'm a sick man. Don't bother me with this shit. Yeah, and they said, is he capable of following his performance into a regular season? And all Francona would say is, I certainly hope so. I mean, with young players, until they do it and they repeat it, you just don't know. Nobody wants to sell him short. And there's that, you know, you have to get that reference in.
But no, boy, you should see his brother. He can really swing it hard. His was name, you long.
No, wait, I had a friend. And seeing as how this is the Black Hole in Space show, I can share this story with all of my viewers, all 6 of them. And my friend told me about his experience with a blind prostitute. I mean, it was like, yes. And
hey, Tony, would you have to pay extra for that?
No. And so he said, you know, what do you think about that? And I said, well, one thing that I know, blind prostitute, you really got to hand it to her. You think about it. It'll get there eventually. You really got to hand it to her. All right, if you don't get it by now, you don't have to put it on the dresser, okay? You literally have to hand it to her. Thank you. That's all I'm going to say about the Indians, because there's nothing else to say.
No.
And if you're a Cavaliers fan, you're happy that Dean Wade is starting. You know, it makes me think of D Wade, and then it's like, no, it doesn't. Every time they say it, it's like, enunciate this more, please. Dean Wade. Then you realize that Dean Wade never goes to the basket. He stands behind the three-point line and throws up line drives. But he's better than Jetty Osman. And I am waiting for the day that Jetty Osman is, you know, I don't know what it's going to take to get him off of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I've never seen anybody with a larger negative number while he's on the floor. It's unbelievable. The guy comes in, they have a 10-point lead. The second his face shows on the floor, I mean, before the ball's even dribbled, it's down to 3 points. It's like, how'd that happen? It's like it's a built-in handicap. You say, I'm trying not to use offensive words on the program.
Yeah, every time on Tuesday night, or was it Tuesday or Wednesday when they were playing the Pacers, it'd get up by 10 and, oh, look, Jetty Osman's on the floor. All of a sudden the Pacers have the lead. It's like,
yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. And so you understand that I am a politically correct guy. Sky Lolo was a diminutive wrestler, okay? Just so I can communicate with wrestling fans too. Okay? You WWE fans said, oh my God, you mean you used to watch that? Yeah, I used to watch diminutive bowling too.
Diminutive.
Well, and then thank you very much. There's what is Key saying to me here? Who's Stephanos?
Oh, Steven.
Oh, Steven told me you were a commentator at the Indians game. No, you know, that is
Steven Rose. Yeah. Oh God.
No, I mean, I'm not average. I am not average. I am not a commentator. Okay. I'm higher up on the food chain.
I'm a podcaster. And don't you forget it.
That's exactly right. Although I used to do incredible impressions. The guy's name was Duncan, who was the original PA announcer for the Cavaliers, who started that Cleveland thing. And I used to do that horrible voice. But
Shelly Duncan? No, wait, that was the Indians.
No, Kelly Duncan. No, I don't remember. Ronnie Duncan, that was his name. Ronnie Duncan, and they fired him when Dan Gilbert, when he was capable. Now he's handy capable. He let Ronnie Duncan go, and he hired another guy to say Cleveland, which didn't make any sense to me. But I used to do the.
Well, they trade out Sandy Duncan, and that just didn't work.
Yeah.
She kept spraying Triscuits all over the floor.
There you go. So, no, I wouldn't believe anything that Steven would tell me, Key, really, and unless there was food on the line, all right? Little bite-sized fried chicken morsels, you could get any secret out of him. Yeah.
And the old barbecue sauce.
And do you really want an explanation of his polyamorous exploits? with Brittany? Do you really want that?
Or the latest girl he's trying to hook up with there, Brian?
Oh my God.
I don't know. Steven goes on these like 3, 4, sometimes 5-hour live shows on YouTube, rambling about like nothing. Like he spent 2.5 hours the other night yelling about the Rockets, and then switched over to like dating advice. And I'm like, dating advice with Steven Rose.
Wow. I mean, the thought.
Apparently there's some really big black girl that works at his Walmart that he works at that he's obsessed with. Well, her name is Wiggly Big Juicy. I don't know. It's fucking weird. It's fucking weird as hell.
Well, no, I mean, the whole thing, I was trying to explain to people who were new viewers of the program, how to conjure an image. The image of the polyamorous relationship between Steven and Brittany is literally, all right, that will make you look like that. And then it's just, I don't know. You know what I wonder? I always wondered with the polyamorous relationship there. I seriously wondered if she was like doing that thing she do while she was showing him little arts and crafts that she made. I don't know. Why am I talking about this? It's Friday. That's why. The Washington football team, thanks but no thanks, Alex Smith, is released. All right. While we were talking about Steven's releases,
oh God! Okay, that's it. See you next Monday for a whole new show.
Hey, we're doing segues. This is professional broadcasting, folks. Yeah, they released Alex.
One comment: Moohead Radio fills an entire toxic waste dump.
Yeah, and get this, and the whole idea for the Redskins is, it's like. Rivera said, I had a chance to meet with Alex Smith this week, and I, don't want to see him, the bone sticking out of his leg again. Thanks, but no thanks. And what's amazing is that he went 5-1 with that shit franchise.
Yeah.
I mean,
the fucking playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. And that's like, and then they put up the little thing on Twitter, a true inspiration. Thank you for everything, Alex. And then, you're fired, Jetson. Yes, Mr. Spacely. You're fired. Which I never understood. That made Donald Trump popular, and it was Spacely, Mr. Spacely from Spacely Sprockets, who originated the line.
Right.
Washington was 7-9, and 5 of the wins were with a 37-year-old man who was playing on 1.5 legs. Right. The really interesting thing is, what's he going to do? Is he going to play anymore? He knew that Washington wasn't interested in him. He said during the course of the year, they only went to him because they had to. And it's incredible when you look at who's going to play quarterback for Washington, who they're grooming for the position. It's some guy I've never heard of.
Right.
And it's somebody who's not going to succeed. That organization can't succeed. They can't get out of their own way.
Right, just because they're grooming him because he scored a touchdown in the playoffs against Tom Brady.
That's lovely. And meanwhile, Smith has not said that he's either going to or not going to return for the 2021 season. But sources have told ESPN's Jeremy Fowler that he wanted to continue playing until he saw the video of the polyamorous relationship between Stephen Rose and Brittany. It's really interesting. Everybody was grossed out by Two Girls in a Cup, right? That's nothing, nothing compared to, the fast food-orama sex flick with those two. You just have to be there, folks.
Jesus Christ.
I know. I know. You know what's terrible about it? The idea of Stephen and Brittany and a fried chicken sandwich. Who's the third?
A donkey.
Yeah. Lovely.
Gives new meaning to let me tell you about my famous herbs and spices.
Oh, God. The Colonel's special sauce. Yeah.
The famous bowl, excuse me.
Yeah, that's right. The Colonel's bowel. I forgot about that. Another one of Stephen's favorite meals. I shouldn't be making fun of. Yes, I should. I mean,
ranks right up there with haggis.
Haggis. That's one of my favorites. Yes. Are the 4-hour marathon broadcasts over? I'm just wondering.
Yes.
Well, then I'm not going to tune in. I'd love to see 4 hours of drunken Stephen. That's like the best.
That's the road to the Super Bowl.
I'm on my 5th or 6th one of these box wines.
Yeah, and you know what would be beautiful about it? He could actually make you forget about how shitty things are in the country. It's like, man, this guy's so fucking anesthetized, man. He's just,
Our road to the NBA championship is over.
Yeah, between crying and screaming, it was the best. I can't do that good, If you're wondering now, the word police, Creighton's men's basketball coach Greg McDermott used an unfortunate word that was considered racially insensitive. This is his quote. Specifically, I said, according to Coach McDermott, guys, we got to stick together. We need both feet in. I need everybody to stay on the plantation. I can't have anybody leave the plantation, McDermott said. It's an interesting choice of words.
Well,
but, now I would understand if he would have said, guys, we got to stick together.
I want you nappy-headed Negroes to stay here on this here plantation.
Yeah, I mean, but that gets you.
And then just like Bobby Knight,
he offered his resignation, but they did not accept his resignation. They just told him to, stop singing the cotton fields back home during practice, and he'd be back in no time flat. Yeah, I mean, but now the LSU investigation about Les Miles, right? Inappropriate behavior with a female student worker in 2013. Allegedly, they said the big thing that he said, and I find this to be really hilarious because, again, people don't do things in a vacuum. I don't mean like a Hoover. I mean like in a literal scientific vacuum. People just don't say things or behave in a certain way without other people knowing about it. It's kind of like what happened at Penn State,
Right.
Tell me that Joe Pod didn't know. It's like, no, I'm not buying into that. Joe Pa knew when each of his players was taking a shit. Give me a break. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Here is what Miles was accused of saying, that female student employees who helped lure top recruits to the football team, quote, needed to have a certain look, further implying that meant attractive, blonde, and fit, according to the report. And if existing student employees didn't fit that description, they should be given fewer hours or fired, which basically would get rid of the entire Fox News lineup of women. Okay? The fact is that this is being done all over the world, all over the country, and the university knew damn well that the student employees who were, for a lack of better expression, cheesecake, were there just to show off their bods, to get these young hormonal athletes to think, hell yeah, we're going to LSU. Right. Not that the players ended up with any of those women unless they did forcibly, which they probably got away with too, with the help of the university and the boosters. He has strongly denied kissing a student and said he didn't do anything wrong. But, if you're going to nail a guy for saying that, we got to have good looking women to show up when these recruits come on campus, if they come on campus, let's be honest. If you brought in the blue chip players and you presented them with polyamorous people like Stephen and Brittany, for example, they're not going to stay.
Run away!
You're telling me that somebody at the top of the pyramid, and I'm sorry I can't use the word pyramid because
Dick Clark will come back from the grave just as soon for $25,000 pyramid.
Can't use that word. But the people at the top, they didn't know that was going on. Please, we're getting way ahead of ourselves here. And then the thing that's really amazing, if you want to be the dumbest imbecile in college athletics, that would be Michigan State University, all right? And I know I'm going to have a lot of Ohio fans, but you see the light. Look, I was in Flint, Michigan for 10 years, just down the road from Ann Arbor, which I went to frequently, and from Lansing. So, it's not that I have any particular bone to pick, but when you're playing a huge game, Michigan State, right? What does Michigan State do? They ended up using a video of Draymond Green trash talking the Wolverines. Can you imagine? I mean, what in the fuck are they thinking? I mean, the guy who would give the best locker room fodder that you could possibly imagine. And of course, fired up, the Wolverines crushed them 69-50. It was like,
fucking killed them, yeah.
Implosion.
Never close, too.
No. And I'm convinced that Draymond Green has clearly lost more games for his team than he's actually won. Yeah. Never has more been said about less. Since the great players left, I don't, it's like, hello? Anybody in Golden State? It's like, why would you do that? I think that's grounds to be fired more than having attractive women showing up for athletes who show up on campus. That's just me. That's horrible coaching. And now here's another thing. And these are all things that just irritate the piss out of me. They really do. The whole Tiger Woods story is all bullshit. All right. And I like Tiger Woods. In fact, I didn't at first.
Right.
I mean, he was kind of arrogant and all, but that, with his comeback, he became more human, and it was like the field kind of lapped him, and he had to use his wits and guile and nerve to be able to hang in. And how he managed to win a major in the condition he was in, God only knows. So, I mean, I was cheering for Tiger. When he had the crash, I was convinced that Tiger was on painkillers. Okay? Just like I was certain that Tom Petty overdosed long before they announced it. And it's like, well, what makes you say that? And it's got nothing to do with Tiger himself. He has a history of problems after back surgery with painkillers. This is already documented. It was the way the police handled the crash. The first thing they said was, well, I was right there on top of the accident, and I was talking to Tiger, and he was completely lucid. And he knew his name, and he knew what had happened, and we got him out of there.
Yeah, not with a grade 3 concussion.
Look.
Take it from somebody who knows.
The fact of the matter is that the police weren't the first ones there, right? In fact, when the car went down the hill, went over the divider, hit the curb first, went across the divider, and then went tumbling and rolling over God knows how many times, that makes a rather loud noise, okay? And in Rancho Palos Verdes, which is where the accident happened, it's going to make enough noise that somebody's going to come out and go, what in the hell happened out here? And sure enough, the guy did. Guy came out, and he was from the neighborhood, and he was the first one. And you know what he discovered?
Tiger Woods knocked the fuck out?
He was unconscious.
Yeah.
Completely unconscious.
Wow.
Now,
if for no other reason than the center console bashing the shit out of his leg into a million little pieces.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he had his foot on the brake, that would account for, multiple compound fractures in his right leg. But I guess what bothers me is when, and again, this whole notion of we should protect the police and all this, I've never been a big fan of the way police departments are run because it isn't fair. Never has been, not since when I was of age to take note of such things. Police forces were never at the top of my list as far as honesty and integrity. I have been stopped in the most ludicrous ways by police officers in the course of my life. I was stopped in Parma, Ohio. Could you believe this? And who wants to be stopped there?
My parents lived there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
60 years ago, but they lived there.
Well, if you can dance and do the Watusi, you can do the Parma polka too. I'm just driving down the road in Parma, and all of a sudden, cop pulls me over. And he says, you went over the center line. I said, I did not go over the center line. He goes, and I look over, and he's got a female police officer in the cruiser with him. And they're both out, and he's haranguing me. And he writes me out a ticket, goes through the whole drill, and I'm just, at that point, I'm zipping my lip because, what am I going to do? And then he takes off with her. And I look at the piece of paper, and it's gibberish. He was showing off. Here's how you pull someone over. Now, I've had experiences, witnessed things and seen things, known people who are on the force who were despicable. I've known good cops too. Don't get me wrong. But when you show up at the scene of an accident like that, and the first thing you do is make sure that the press gets the message that he was lucid, to me, and you're just obviously covering at that point. You're just obviously, it's like, no, he wasn't on painkillers. Without a toxicology, right? Without
right.
anything. they're going to come to that conclusion that it was just this little old accident that almost forced us to amputate his leg. Yeah.
Right.
So that was all fabrication, and the fact is that Tiger was unconscious. And if he was unconscious, you could say, well, the force of the accident, or you could just say he slept through the whole thing. Who knows how much painkiller he had in his system, and who knows if he knew that he had multiple compound fractures. And the only person who is interested in this is Alex Smith saying, if it ever happens to me again, I want as much as he had in his system. Unbelievable.
One final story before we get out of here. We have passing away of an American hero.
Really?
Yeah. Mark Pavlich from the 1980 Miracle on Ice hockey team.
Really?
Passed away at the age of 63.
Too young, man.
He was found dead in his mental health treatment center. He was forced dead. He was civilly committed after an assault on a neighbor with a lead pipe in August of 2019.
Is that connected to
bad, really bad.
Like CTE stuff?
They don't know for sure. His brain's going to be donated, but I know he played in the NHL, and back in the NHL in the 80s, there wasn't really much helmet usage, and they believe it's just deteriorated. And then couple that with being from northern Minnesota, drinking a lot, and
do you believe in brain damage? Yes.
Yeah. So, that's 63 years old.
63.
Yeah.
My God.
The second from that team to pass away, as we all know, Herb Brooks has been gone for years.
And, Tiger said he doesn't remember driving that day. Scary stuff. Yeah, I think we've pretty well done enough to get people angry with me today.
Including people he lives with.
Keith, thanks for coming to the chat room. And, say hi to Stephen Ford, because he doesn't show up around here anymore. I have no idea why, because we talk so nicely about him. I don't see Brittany either. So I don't know what happened to Brittany.
I don't think Brittany's been around in months.
Yeah, haven't seen her.
Steven wasn't on the show, so she's.
Yeah, but I haven't seen Brittany. So
Brittany has created her own channel. Brittany has her own YouTube channel.
Does she really?
Yeah.
Does she talk, or is it like old Charlie Chaplin silence?
No, she actually talks.
About what?
For craft stuff that she's selling and.
Oh, the craft
mainly
stuff.
That kind of, yeah.
Really into that, yeah. And you never know where those things had been and why some of them were so oddly shaped. At any rate, thanks everybody for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. You come out of this more enlightened than you were when you were a fetus. So thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again come Monday with
and
more.
A blooded one.
Basketball, there's no live game, there's nothing. But I will fill an hour because it is my responsibility. I always
there is no basketball for a week. I fucking forgot about that.
That's right.
Maybe we can talk about the All-Star game.
You put a cup in front of me at the doctor's office, I'm going to fill that bitch up. All right? I'm going to give them my money's worth. And that's what I believe in this podcast. It's piss poor, but I'm going to give you a full cup, even if there's no sports at all.
We may fill it with drool from sitting here just staring at the screen for an hour.
But everybody
we'll be stealing Steven's spit bucket.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Enjoy your time with friends and families. Be safe. And as always, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.